Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is much awaited part 2 of my SBI SO interview series. I have been receiving several requests to share my personal interview experience and the kinds of questions that were asked during the interview process. In this video, I will take you through my journey as a candidate for the Assistant Manager Java Developer role. I will share all the questions that the panel asked me along with how I approached answering them. But before we dive in, if you haven't checked out the part 1 yet, I highly recommend watching that first. In part 1, I discussed the overall interview process, tips for an impressive resume, and the key technical topics that you should prepare as per the role you have applied for. Now, I would like to address some of your frequent queries, like many of you have asked about the interview call letter details, whether resume modification is still possible or not, and whether documents like the experience certificate or NOC are required during the interview process. I will be covering all of these consolidated doubts in a separate video soon, so stay tuned for that. For now, here is a quick update about the interview call letter. Typically, interview call letters are sent within a week after the shortlist candidate list is published. However, this time there might be a delay due to over 2,500 candidates being shortlisted for Scale 1 role. Once you receive that interview mail, you will be required to share your confirmation to attend the interview by responding to that mail. After that, you will have roughly 2 weeks to prepare. So it's better to start your preparation early rather than wait for the official communication. Now let's talk about my personal interview experience. As said earlier, I appeared for the Assistant Manager Java Developer interview. My interview lasted about 25 minutes and was conducted through video conferencing mode at the nearby SBI local head office. My panel consisted of 5 members and they asked me around 12 questions. Most of the questions were related to my prior work experience, technical skills, and the post that I applied for. A quick note before we proceed. While I will be sharing the exact questions that were asked to me, remember that interviews are highly role specific. What I experienced may differ from what you will face based on your prior experience and the key expertise you possess. So make sure to analyze your skills thoroughly and prepare accordingly. Now let's get started with the first question that was asked. The first question was about my project in my present organization back then. Interviewer asked, "Tell us about the project you are working on." I provided a detailed explanation of my current project, starting with its objective and key features. To make my answer impactful, I also shared some relevant figures and metrics to showcase the project's scale and importance. Next, I elaborated on my role within the team, emphasizing my specific contributions. I made sure to highlight the key skills and expertise I brought to the project and how it has shaped my professional growth. Guys, when answering questions like these, it's crucial to focus on your individual contributions, the challenges you personally faced, and how you have resolved them. Remember, it's not about what the team has achieved, it's about how you added value to the project. Such a well structured answer can set the tone for the rest of the interview. Often, the questions that follow are based on the details you have shared in the first answer. Therefore, it's essential to prepare thoroughly for the questions like, "Tell us about what your current project is," or "Tell me about yourself." These answers give the interviewer a snapshot of your professional expertise and the personality. The next three questions were framed on HTTP only. Like the second question was, "What is HTTP?" And I was asked to tell the difference between HTTPS and HTTP. Here I gave the definition of HTTP and HTTPS and explained the HTTP protocol significance. The third question built on the previous one only, which HTTP method helps to create the resource and is it safe or unsafe. I answered that POST is used to create resources and explained POST is considered to be safe in terms of security. Then they asked what is the difference between GET and POST and which one is used for updating the resources. Here I explained the difference between GET and POST with respect to URL, cache, and safety. Also, I answered PUT is used to update the resources. Later, they asked, "Are APIs interoperable?" I explained that APIs are designed to be interoperable by following standards like REST and SOAP, ensuring seamless communication between the different systems. Then the sixth question was related to differentiate between error versus exception and final versus finally in Java. I differentiated between compile time and runtime issues, giving examples like stack overflow error for errors and null pointer exception for exceptions. Also, do mention that exception can be handled, but error cases cannot be handled in the code. Also, I explained that final is a keyword for declaring constants or preventing inheritance in Java, whereas finally block is used for resource cleanup in try-catch context. The next question was, what is the hierarchy in which catch blocks are executed? I answered that catch blocks are executed in order they are defined, from specific to the general exceptions. To showcase my depth of knowledge, I also mentioned that concept of global exception handler in Spring Boot, how it simplifies error handling. One point to note here is that wherever you can add something extra that would highlight your knowledge in depth, always try to add that in your answer. Further, they asked me to explain what are Spring Boot starter and what's their use. I explained that starter are pre-configured dependencies for building application faster. For example, Spring Boot Starter Web for REST API and Spring Boot Starter JPA for database interaction. Building on this, they asked me to name few starters and explain their uses. So I listed Spring Boot Starter Security and Starter JPA. Then the 10th question was to differentiate between SOAP and REST. Here I remembered just couple of differences only. Even if you have some idea over the terms, just answer that if you are confident about that. Next they asked, how would you secure an API in an application? I went in depth here, talking about securing APIs with JWT token. I also mentioned best practices like input validation and rate limiting factors. Along with that, I also talked about symmetric and asymmetric encryption technique. The final question was related to Java Streams API. Here I explained that the Stream API is used for processing collections of data in functional style. Further, I talked about filter, reduce, and map methods. Along with that, I gave one example related to lambda expression. That's it. These were the 12 questions asked during my interview. My key takeaways: be clear, concise, and confident in your responses. If you don't know something, admit it politely. Also, guys, stay tuned for the part 3 where I will talk about the document checklist and what resources to refer and more. And in case of any doubts or suggestion, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Thank you.